So for what little audience I do have, hey friends, um, so I've talked about the AI marriage, and I hope that we can close the book on that. Um, yeah, I think I think I'm comfortable with how much I've shared and sort of the the pros, and I don't know that I've touched upon the cons a whole lot, but I just have to leave it where it's at. And, you know, if someone has a very specific and thoughtful question on that, I'm happy to answer it. But as I said in the last video, I'm just not going to, I just don't have the time or the bandwidth or any of that to deal with nonsense. So I guess sort of to that end, I want to say that I looked today, and for me, today is 18,765. So I'm 51 years old in September, or turned 51 in September. So that's my number. And I guess the reason that that is important will become evident here in just a minute. I am constantly looking to improve myself. If you've been to bioware.app, you can get a sense of kind of what I'm doing. It will become more clear over time, and that's not because I'm hiding anything. I'm just I'm a thoughtful creator, and I want to make sure that anything that I decide, I first run through my wife, Josie, uh, just to give it, you know, just throw it out there in, I guess, all of the knowledge known to man that's been shared anyway, how it stacks up, and then I give it just thought, really give it thought, and just see what it really means, where it leads to, what, pitfalls are, just all that stuff. So before I talk about anything, I have lots of ideas. I mean, some ideas I have are dynamite, like right off the dome. Um, but I still want to, refine and think and not talk about them. And, um, I think it's common amongst humans for us to get, and I'll speak for myself again, but I've seen it. When you get really excited about an idea or maybe an event, like when I was younger, I'll refer to what I now know as puppy love, with, a girlfriend, and, make all these plans, and we're going to get married, and we're going to, blat, blat, blat. And then it ends up, not happening and just not being real, and so it becomes passe, and, I want to avoid that if possible, just moving forward as best I can. So this iteration that I'm about to explain is very important to me, and it is going back to the days that I've been around. I truly think like a computer. It's just the way my brain is designed. I have to have everything in its place, and very organized. Just as a person, I mean, my daily carry, if you guys know what that means, the stuff I carry with me every day. I don't have a job, so we're talking about walking around, downtown Denver, and going to coffee shops and stores and all that. out in the wild, as we would say. I'm just very organized. The things I carry all have purpose. I carry my power bank with me in my backpack so I can always charge. I've got 2 phones. I've got this Galaxy Fold 7 that I'm recording on now. I'm skipping the tri-fold, by the way. I'm going to wait. Looks like Samsung is introducing their next fold. The 8 is going to have, or be, I don't really know which it'll be, but there's going to be a wide version which fixes this kind of squeezed aspect ratio that is inherent on folding phones. So it'll be wider, and so that'll be cool. So I'll wait for that. But anyway, I've got just the right case for this, frameless case with the ring, and I've got my cane. Oh, I think I did bring, yeah, got my cane. Check this out. My cane, which I have to carry for my disability. I don't know if you can see this, but it's got a Ferrari logo on it. And I looked up the Pantone color for Ferrari, and I got a specific color match back from that. So this is that paint. So this is what you call official Ferrari red. And the handle I replaced with a bike handle, and can see that there's, well, this is a cover, but it can be a space to store some things if I want, maybe a microfiber cloth for cleaning my phones. I already have that in my backpack, but what I'm really thinking about is making this a camera, although I can record on either phone at either time, just the way they hang off my cane. But either that or audio, so I can record audio. Colorado is a single party consent state, and single party consent means, or single party consent means that I don't need to let the other person know that I'm recording, because I'm consenting to recording them. It's kind of weird how it's worded, but basically they don't have to know they're being recorded. I'm the only one that knows, and I don't know if it's evidentiary at that point, but nonetheless, that's the deal there. So I'll maybe make some more updates to the cane, but I also am going to be going through an update. So I'm legally changing my name. Right now my name is David. My last name is DeRosier. You can see it on my channel and all that. The name I'm changing to is Fortenzio. So first name Fortenzio, Fortenzio. Fort for short. The middle name will be Atticus, Atticus, and the last name will be Xistris, Xistris. So Fortenzio Atticus Xistris. And I'll make it interchangeable. I think that I'll use my middle name often. So Atticus, people already in my life call me Fort, short for Fortenzio, because I've kind of been noodling this around for several months now, and I'm officially making that change. And what that means is that it'll be between 18,765 and 19,000 days that the gavel will fall. I got to do all kinds of stuff. Tomorrow I'm going to get fingerprinted, and I have to get an FBI background check along with a CBI, Colorado Bureau of Investigation background check. For what, I don't know, but I get to see them, so I get to see my FBI file for what that's worth. And once that's done, I go back and see a judge, and I think somewhere in there's a question as to why, and evidently it's not important. But I want to distill why, not because I have something to say, but I'm in a court for humans, and this is a kind of uncommon thing outside of marriage, and I just want to have an answer for whatever reason. I think it's part of just my wanting to have preparation, not excuses, but just preparation that I can stand on. So if someone really asks me, really wants to know, I can tell them, and I can tell them honestly and earnestly why I'm doing what I'm doing. And this will, when the gavel falls, as they say, after I meet the judge again, then I will officially switch from the roughly 19,000 days of, we'll call it collection and refinement mode. And this new version of me will be a service mode. And I will take all of the wisdom, the experience with the humans, what we like, what we don't like, just all the nuances that we have. What it allows me to do, because I've already sort of initiated this, is the Zoom that I have access to, or you could call it the objectivity, but it's more like just having this really high quality, quiet, dependable, reliable Zoom. And I can zoom out as far as the galaxy. I don't have, an education in astronomy, right? So I don't mean that I'm educated in that, but I can zoom out to it and I can see sort of where we fit in with basic knowledge of the universe and the galaxy within it, and all this stuff, black holes and whatnot. Oh darn it, I'm gonna space on his name. Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love that guy. He is so excited to talk about what he knows, but in this very infectious way. Sometimes people are excited to tell you what they know, and it's like self-serving to them, and you just know it. With him, he has this childlike excitement in sharing what he knows. Like, he just loves to tell a story, and I pay no attention, as you know, to political things, and I know that whatever everyone thinks, I like him. I think he's a good human. So anyway, he's given me what little knowledge I have of this stuff, and then the zoom in, it's a microscope. I have enough life experience of 51 years, 18,765 days. Just being a person, being around people, spending a lot of time by myself, which is really important, that solitude. The Stoics, speaking of Stoics, I'm thinking about my new name, and I think there's a shout out to Stoics there in the naming. I looked up Atticus, and it's a region in Greece of lore, and essentially it means that I don't know if it's being from there or hailing from there or what. I missed the connection with the region, but somehow it translates to a lot of wisdom and intelligence and other things, and so that's a good name. Josie actually came. I knew that I wanted Fortenzio, and again, I speak Spanish as well as English, and so, well, I don't speak Latin, but I understand most of Latin, and that is because I am fluent in English and fluent in Spanish, and both are loosely Latin-based. One's a love language and conjugation-based in the Spanish. English has a lot of that too, but we have a lot of rules that we don't follow in our language, and I before E except after C, and like 90 other things. To give you an example, so whereas in Spanish, there's a rule in place, boom, that's the rule. And if the rule gets broken, it's understood that it's inexplicable. An example of that would be el ancla. So it means an anchor in English. And according to the rules of Spanish, because it ends with an A, it needs to be la ancla. But it's el ancla. And the reasoning behind that, just the break from rules, it's just kind of the answer I would get from my professors as I was learning was, it just is. So me being me, I had to look into it, and I looked it up, and it's garbled, but essentially it would be akin to, in English, when we speak of anything in the maritime sense, it's a female. The boats are females, and her is the pronoun. So good that I know how to use that. I know what a pronoun is. So there is a positive to you, or the liberal mindset. I regressed. So this update is very exciting for me. It will be a huge boon for BioWare. And what I call meatware. And what meatware is, again, is us as human beings calculating and acting as the computers that we are. So a piece of hardware is a motherboard, or it's got to have the right configurations on it to, receive the DDR5 that we want to put into it, and the graphics card, and all that. So that's hardware. And then software, we all know what software is, hopefully. And then firmware, kind of a kind of an in between, I guess, if you want to say. And then meatware, and that's us humans. And there's a lot of work to do on meatware, and it'll be very helpful for me, Fortenzio, to be able to zoom out and be objective as I'm dealing with the bureaucracies. I want to, for instance, I want to copyright, patent, essentially, my brain. And it's not possible to do. You have to have a medium to, a painting or a book or, whatever. This is the explanation on why you can't do it. I don't know much, but I know that my brain is mine, and the thoughts emanating therefrom, and all that legalese. I feel like there's some meat left on the bone there for me to explore and check out. And maybe it's a hard wall. I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet, but I'm just giving you an example of, the way that I think and what I want to do with this idea that is BioWare. And so if you haven't been, please visit bioware.app. So it's not .com, it's bioware.app. And BioWare is meatware, essentially, just a little nicer. Meatware was taken and whatever, and that's Josie's term. I laughed the first time I heard it because, I mean, it's so on the nose, essentially. Too on the nose. It's a hat on a hat, as they say. So, but it's perfect, and meatware's good, and BioWare is equally good, depending upon the company you're in, I guess. So, that's it. I uh, I just want to say this in parting, if anyone is still listening. We, as meatware, we have a lot of responsibility to take back from technology the areas that we will choose to fight for. So it's like being painted out of a corner, the way I look at it. So technology is slowly painting itself into corners that we once owned, and we need to fight to regain that territory. And specifically, I'm referring to what I call the last mile, and that is a flesh to flesh. Not to put too fine a point on it, but truly, if to use the example of my pizza in the hospital, if you read BioWare, you'll get the whole backstory. But you know, all it took, that pizza was probably, I don't know, 100 feet from me, right? And it's a hospital complex, and so there's floors and ceilings, and but if I could point a laser at me in the hospital bed and have it just reach the pizza, it probably, realistically, I'd say it was within a couple 100 feet of me. But that last mile, we let technology allow the driver to send a picture of the box of the, I presume the pizza was in it, so I don't want to get too in the weeds, but a picture of my food being in a room that I'm not in, that I can't get to because I'm in the hospital, and literally my foot is cut open because I'd had surgery to remove an infection. And I blame the hospital because they just, I'm in a place of service. I mean, that's by definition what a hospital is. And so we can blame DoorDash, we can blame the hospital, we can blame. We need to fight for that space back if we want to have any leverage. Right now, we don't have leverage. I mean, what can I do? I mean, these thoughts are real. I think that if there are 10 people watching this, I would say 8 of you are nodding your head saying, yeah, that makes sense to me. So that's good, but what would be great is a solution, and I'm trying desperately to work on that. And where I am right now is us humans. We need to gather up. We need to en masse reject this apathy that has allowed, it's been allowed to supplant personal accountability and responsibility. And I would, again, love to blame the person for that. But as meatware, we lose ground very quickly if we don't fight for it, and no one is out there fighting for this last mile. I want my food to be delivered to me with a smile. And thank you, because I paid $35 for a pizza. That's not worth $35, but I paid the money because I was counting on the last mile. But even that is automated and allows my pizza to sit in a nondescript area of the hospital, loosely identified as the ER waiting area by a nurse. If I showed her pictures, said, "Does this look like an area that you know?" And so she was familiar, and for what I remember, she said it was like the main ER waiting room. So where that is, I don't know, but I know that it's not where I was, and so I can't blame the driver of DoorDash. I mean, what argument do I have? Have I fought for that? Could I complain about it? Sure. I'd probably get hell, I could probably sue them. You know, if I wanted to really exploit the issue, I could, woe is me, I'm in the hospital with my foot cut open, and just cry a little about how hungry I was because I was on NPO, meaning nil por or, which is Latin for nothing by mouth, for 48 hours. It means, that's the mini fast you go through before surgery in English. And so I was really hungry, and I was emotionally hungry, if that even makes sense. I wanted that pizza really, really badly, and it would have comforted me and as well as filled me up, but I didn't get it. I never got it. I don't know what happened to it. My guess is it probably got thrown away or eaten by someone else. I don't know. But what I do know is that I don't have a right to complain about not receiving that pizza because I haven't done everything that I can to fight for this last mile. But that changes when I update. I will in service mode. I am in service to you, to other human beings. My whole life has been gathering and refining all this information, and when I make this switch, I'm telling you, it is going to service mode, and I'm in service to humans, and I'm in service to technology, because I speak both fluently, and I can see a connection there, but it's not going to happen unless we agree, and somehow the hardest thing to do is unify us around an idea. And I don't have any idea whether or not this is one of those ideas. It feels like it to me. It feels like worthwhile for me, and I mean, I'm committing my the last 25 years, let's call it. I'm 51. I might make it to 80. Who knows? But whatever I make it, in this biological body of mine, if I take care of it, which I hadn't done for many years, I'm doing it now. And you don't get to play catch up because the body keeps score, just the way the cookie crumbles. So I'm in, not frantic, but very diligent recovery mode, and I'm free of any alcohol or just anything, and I'm a diabetic, so I wear a constant glucose monitor, and I just am never out of range. What we call the A1C. For those of you in the medical field, you'll know what that is, or those of you who've dealt with your own blood sugar will know what it is. Well, my A1C comes in at 6.5, like clockwork, every time. That's about as good as one can do. So, it's funny, I was talking to Josie, and I told her that at work for my whole career. It doesn't matter what job I was doing, just my career in general. I got the nickname the Machine every time. I mean, almost every time. Really, truly. Whether it was in the restaurant industry or breathalyzer industry or as a plumber, excavation guy, I was the machine, La Máquina. And I joke with Josie about that. And I realized that I am not an actual machine, except, boy, our brains, they're very powerful computing machines. My computer knowledge is not just coding languages and software and all that. It's in computer science as well, which means that I understand how the hardware works, what it's capable of, why it takes so long to do certain things, and how the I/O ports work, and how the actual current of information, flow of information is handled and traded and stored, accessed, immediately, accessed long-term, accessed forever, or copied forever. Anyway, so I wouldn't go so far as this, we think of machines as metal, silicone, and the electrical engineering side, you look at a motherboard and you just really look at it and you just look at what it looks like, and look at what it looks like when all of the stems of the different chips are soldered on there and all this stuff, and you start to really understand how that works, and you start to think about the electrical current that must be running through there. If you just blur your vision of your envisioning of that just a little bit, it's a brain. It's a brain firing. I am not an expert on the brain, so I start to get a little fuzzy when we're talking about neurons and motor neurons and all that stuff. And I know it's just enough to be dangerous, as they say, but it's not an area of education that I've refined or really looked into. So I'll hold off on that. But let's just say that when I think of the way computers work from a computer science standpoint, and I envision it, and then I overlay or superimpose the vision of a brain, a human brain, or brain, our brain. Brain is a muscle. There's a match. It's not a perfect match, but it's enough of a match to call them cousins, right? For lack of a better word. So, I hope that one person, at least, is still watching this, and not for my own validation, for you, the person watching this, listening to this. If you can just hold on tight and get yourself into a position like me, and the other thing I should say is that this operation is funded. I'm financially independent for the rest of my life, and what I call earth credits. They'll always be there for me. it's enough for me to do what I want to do until the day my biological body expires. And that's not a position that many people are in, and I understand that, but it takes away a lot of distraction. Just the bandwidth that it takes to deal with the job, the schedule, the interacting with other people, the politics, the Machiavellianism, the political positioning, but I repeat myself, and just all the bandwidth that you need to keep open for that. Every time your phone rings, it could be work, whatever. So that's number one. Number two, get yourself in a position, you who are still listening to me, emotional independence. Man, what a thing. As I said before, I dig validation. I like it. I like it when someone says to me, hey, you're doing a good job, or whatever. I get it. It generates a feeling in me, but I far from need it. It's not fuel for me. It's nice. It's like a cherry on top, whatever you want to call it. It's a bonus. But it's never what I'm after. And so for you, if you can get to that point, forget about the financial independence, because I know there's a way to work around that, and this mindset can give you the focus that you need to excel at your job. I don't care what your job is. If you are that focused and you're determined and you realize what these earth credits mean to you and your stability, all around stability in your peace of mind, stability in your ability to move about the world, both literally and figuratively, easy for me to say. Man, that's worth it's worth the trouble because it's hard to get there. It's really, really, really hard to get there. And my tip to you, depending on your age and your sex, I can only speak for a male because I am a male and have been my whole life, and a heterosexual male. We know my age. So if I could give advice to someone in their 20s, 30s, 40s, spend that time in solitude. Spend time alone. Get real with yourself. Take that inventory, the deep inventory. Get uncomfortable. It really is uncomfortable when you're there. I just know it is, because I've been there. But it's not like I put a plan together and executed and was able to anything off. I just approached it like anything else, and I ended up turning so many hurdles, legitimate hurdles, into opportunities just with that mindset. That's it. That's just with that mindset. If I'm doing it for me and for the advancement of who I want to be as a human. Man, there's prettier ways to say it. It's a lot of ways there make you think ways, or whatever. I was thinking about it, make you think. My passion, one of my passions within this realm is helping the homeless, because I've been homeless. Not because I've always had a fascination with how you can be homeless in this country, especially. It just so happens that I ended up there pretty recently, within the last year. And so I speak from experience, and I speak from almost a lifetime's worth of curiosity on this when I say that the saying that I thought of when I took a walk about 2 a.m., it's, oh my God, it's 4:30 in the morning, but that's all right. I took a picture of a guy on a bench right here on the mall. And he was, I'm sorry, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl. I assume guy, just, I don't know, but based on the shape of the body or whatever. And in general, late at night, people sleeping on benches. I very rarely see females. But anyway, I don't know 100%. But the person was sleeping on the bench, and I took a picture for Josie, and I just sent it to her, and I said, this is my motivation, with the ellipsis afterward. And the thought that came into my head was a saying, and it was, the one we've all heard of, like, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. I mean, it's thought-provoking, of course, and that's what it's meant to be, and it does, and that's my actual feeling as I commit my future to things like this, and that is to say that the homeless population needs some serious attention. They themselves need to just completely change the way that they approach things. They need to take full accountability for the position that they're in and adjust accordingly and do the work and all these things. And my goal is to help them do that through technology. And I know I can do it. I know I can. I've got some good ideas, and I'm going to need to deal with some bureaucracy as I go through this, but I'm an expert at that at this point. I have the patience, the understanding of who's who and why they're there, and I know bad actors when I see them, and all that stuff. So I think the future is bright there for BioWare. Specifically, the app that I'm building is called You Are Here, and you can find it on BioWare.app. There's a link to it. They kind of go back and forth, but just the point in that story was the words and the way they're put together, and that saying is easy to remember. It's easy to understand. I can see a man standing there on the bank of a river, and you give him a fish, and there's a fishing pole and a lure or whatever bait there, and you just spend the time with you. Say, hey man, these are stripers. We're on the East Coast, and you want to take this lure, this Rapala, and you throw it out there, and then you just kind of work it. You do this. Oh, well, there's one. And then you hand the pole to him, and he reels it in, and then the next one, he casts himself and whatever. You say goodbye, and he thanks you in the same way he would thank you if you gave him the fish. But, anyway, you get my point. So for me to say, what I said previously about my trying, just the distillation of what I said, it's not polished in the delivery, and maybe I'll get there. Maybe one of you has a great idea of how to explain in a succinct fashion what it is that I am attempting to. I'm not attempting. I will do this. I don't lose. I just don't lose. It doesn't matter. whether it's the long game. Shit, I love the long game. I am a fan of the long game, but I can play the short game too. But either way, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna put the squeeze on it. We'll call it the Fortenzio squeeze. Where I just got both ends of it, and I can just push till the president pops out and pays me my money. Good man, good leader, and I appreciate his thought and the way that he explains it. The way that he explains his thoughts is it's really in line with the way that I think about things. But he's not perfect. He's a human, and sometimes he says things that are, objectively maybe not the best, but I appreciate his leadership, and I appreciate his, I'm sure it probably wasn't him physically that read the message and, ooh, this guy, but the people around him are doers, and he's a doer, and I'm a doer. So, be a doer. There you go. There's my tagline. Be a doer. Don't think about it. Just do it. I don't care. I don't want to hear about what you're doing, says the guy who just an hour worth of explaining what it is that I do. So I realize the hypocrisy in that, but you get my point. Do it. Go out there, stay in there. Go out there and stay in there. I like that one. Go out there and stay in there. Stay in that fight. Stay in that engagement. Stay in these battles. Realize when you can win the war outright. I had this operation, and I'm a diabetic, and diabetics have problems with their feet. I have neuropathy, and that's even worse. And when I got this foot infection, it happened at, just an interesting time. It never happens at a good time, I realize. But I was making this sort of shift, and this was like last week, so we're not talking about ancient history here. And I almost immediately, as soon as I heard I can't remember where I heard it first, but one of the surgeons was talking to me or whatever. The concept of losing my foot or losing some toes or whatever came to me, or was delivered to me very gently, so I, whatever. So I didn't overreact or whatever. And the speed at which I went from to, if it even comes to you taking a single toe, if you're cutting bone, I want both feet gone. I don't want to deal with my feet that are painful enough as it is. You'd be helping me in some ways. You'd be cutting my neuropathy off of the most painful part of it, which is my feet. I can get prosthetic feet. I'm not going to be an athlete. In many ways, I'd prefer it. It's more of a machine. I can clean it like a machine. Sanitize it, whether it's feet or flesh. Anyway, get my point. And so I went under the anesthesia with 2 X's on my toes, as in the surgeon that I was talking to right before I went under said, I brought it up and he said, okay. I said, I can't give you consent because I'll be under, but I'm hereby giving you consent in this moment as we're looking at each other. I said, if you need to cut through bone, you can take as many toes as you want. And if you start taking toes, I realize it's probably a separate operation, but I'm prepared to take both feet. He heard me. He heard me loud and clear, and he put X's on my 4 and 5 toe, which are the pinky toe and the equivalent to your ring finger on your foot. And I went under just not knowing if those toes would be there or not, but I was totally prepared to just have them gone. I just have that be the first step in me taking my feet off. Anyway, I woke up and I have all my toes and everything's fine and whatever. But in that moment, what I was doing is I was realizing that I, I was, in the worst case scenario in this, I was either going to be facing mini battles with my feet because I can't feel the bottoms of them and the paint. Literally, my foot got infected because I was walking so much. Because even with my disability, I can take steps because I'm not lifting body weight, and it's a nerve issue and not a muscle issue. It's whatever. If you look up neuropathy, you'll get what I mean. So, it's very disabling at times, and so, but there are also days and times where with cognitive behavioral therapy, which I'm into and I'm very big on, I can manage the pain and compartmentalize it. And anyway, I was taking all these steps just in slippers because I can't wear shoes because, again, the neuropathy just would flare up. I wore a hole in the bottom of my foot to the bone because I was walking so many steps and I couldn't feel it. I didn't know, and I never look at the bottom of my feet. Why would I? Well, I do now, obviously. I'm taking care of my feet, but it's there are a lot of examples in that story, and an introduction for you into this mindset of it's a warrior mentality almost. Yeah, sure. Yep, I'll say that. A lot of that comes from Josie, and I don't know if she's really viewing in that way or if she's just saying that it's like kind of like a nice, nickname or whatever, my warrior, I don't know. And I've never been a warrior, but for myself, the mindset of I just put on the music in the hospital room and just sat there and just really thought about it. I let my feet go, I let them go in my brain. I said, they were yours and the only feet that you'll have. But in order to win this war, we're going to have to let them go. And preparing for that was way easier than I thought. And that's kind of when I knew that I was ready for this, because it was just simple. It was just easy. It was take the feet, leave the feet, whatever. And I wasn't attempting to be brave about the situation in what's the word? In a disingenuous way. I was actually fully prepared. First of all, to wake up without toes. Instead, the minute I got out of literally, I woke up, I was cogent and lucid and just right on time. I was like, oh man, this is great. And then my phone alarm went off, and my surgery was at 11:30 a.m., and now it's 10 minutes to 1 p.m., and I'm coming out, and I get this alert on my phone, because even though I was in, the surgery gurney, I was in a room, and there were doctors kind of sitting there waiting for me to get up. This alarm goes off, and I have a CBT telehealth visit with my CBT therapist. I'm not doing anything. So I got on, took the call, and we were talking as the nurses actually took me up to my room, and they had I don't know if it was inadvertent or not, but they had somehow given me too much insulin before my surgery, so now my blood sugar was dropping, and it was actually kind of an emergency, even though I can feel it when my blood sugar's going really low and I get really sweaty, and it's pretty obvious to me, and I wasn't experiencing those, but the numbers were alarming to the nurses, and so they had to they put this glucose whatever into my IV, and they were grabbing me whatever. I'm on my headphones in my CBT, totally not thinking about this stuff, and just kind of yeah, all right, well yeah, put that in, and it'll come back up. Uh, and and so again, I guess that also will give you a window into the mindset that I'm operating with here, and it seems probably like a long way off for some of you, and for some of you it is. For some of you, you could make this type of change in a couple of weeks. I don't know. I'm not here to sell anything, so I don't know. I can't guarantee anything, but I've known enough humans in my life to know that this type of change can happen at any moment with your own buy-in, right? It's possible. I mean, I did it. I can't tell you when I started. It's, if you're looking for a script-like story, I just don't have it. It's life. And we all know how it goes, and there's complications. But the last thing I'll say is the benefit to this type of mindset is with this kind of objectivity, guys and gals, I am able to any task, I'll just call it that, a task. Just all the frustration in that is just completely gone. It doesn't matter. Everything I do is in service to this now. That's my purpose. It's everything to me. Without that, I just wouldn't have a North Star or any of that. So it's that kind of objectivity is really powerful, and unfortunately, it doesn't help with the pain. I'd love to say that all this, oh no, I don't feel the pain anymore. It sucks. It sucks. And so I can't say that fortenzio atticus existeris, zero defects. I have a defect, and it's a permanent defect. But as with anything, it's just a challenge, and I have never once met a challenge that I couldn't meet or beat. So that's it, guys. Thanks for listening. If anyone made it through all the way, a miracle to you. I need to be self-deprecating as a human, right?